Hi everybody, it's Linda Faulkner. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and I'm here with my friend Carol, a fellow demonstrator from Augusta, and we are getting ready to show you the, Sailing Home stamp set and framelits and all kinds of goodies that go in that suite. So I've got a great card to show you, so stay tuned. Let me turn the camera around and we'll get started. We are ready to get started. We're going to be making this beautiful nautical card. This is coming from the Sailing Home stamp set. This is one of the cling stamps that are fairly new. They will not fall off your clear block anymore, so we're excited about that. I'm also going to be using the dies that coordinate. They're called smooth sailing dies, and you get 12 different pieces. One of the things I like about this set is it has one of these labels in it, and it actually has stitching on it, as well as a decorative piece that would be cute on the end of an envelope flap, and also another small label. So I like the fact that I'll be using those labels and the decorative piece for lots of other stamps and projects besides just this one card. So let's get started with some stamping. I'm going to clear my table and I'll be ready. We're ready to get started with our Sailing Home card. I like this nautical theme. I live near the ocean, so it is perfect for this time of year. In fact, Maine, I think, is one of the most beautiful lighthouses, has some of the most beautiful lighthouses you'll ever see. So let's get started. I'm starting with a regular card base. This is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 on the front. And on top of that, I'm going to be doing some layers. Let me leave this one here beside it so you can kind of see what we're building. And the first layer is real red, and it is going to cover the entire front of the card. This one has Puppy Parade. I just liked that red, but I wanted to just kind of see what the other color looked like. So I am going to put some tape runner on the back. And you want to be very generous with this layer because everything is resting on it. So just about that much. And I like to match the fold up, because if the fold is not perfect, it's going to show white behind it. Everything else, I can kind of trim it to work. So if I get that bottom fold covered along with the top edge, then I'm usually in pretty good shape. If you see any white and that drives you nuts, you just simply trim that off. You'll be able to see that. And you see there's a little bit down here. You can see that with my hand. So I'll take some time and trim that in just a little bit. The next layer is Balmy Blue, and it is measuring, I went in 1/4 of an inch on each side. No, that's not right. I went in a total 1/4 of an inch, so it gives me about 1/8 of an inch on each side. And this is coming from the High Seas 3D embossing folder. Can you see the ocean on my card? It's all, not sure. Yeah, the light's catching that. This is the 3D embossing folder. It's one of the new ones. I like this line on the side so that it helps you put your, sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied. It helps you line your paper up to make sure it's straight. Although this ocean scene is so cattywampus in all directions, I'm not sure it's going to matter. So I'd put my card through the Big Shot machine, just like that. And it's going to have your embossing plate on top of it and your regular platform on the bottom. So when you do that, you get this beautiful wave effect, and that's my next layer. I've used Stampin' Dimensionals on the back of the embossed layer, and I'm just going to add that to the front of my card. I should have 1/8 of an inch all the way around, so if I can center that in a corner with that amount of space on the outside, I usually have pretty good luck. There we go. Now I have 2 more layers on top of this one. Here's my original card. So I'm going to add the Night of Navy, and on top of that, it's this tiny, almost like a pinstripe of the Balmy Blue with a little bit of a stripe on it. On the Balmy Blue Pinstripe and the Navy, Night of Navy solid cardstock, I'm just using snail adhesive on the back. I want to make sure I get it in the corners also, and then I'm just going to center that. Again, if I can center a corner, I can usually get it pretty straight. There we go. Now I'm ready for my stamping. I'll be using Night of Navy ink. This is our water-based dye ink to do my stamping. Let's start. I have an oval, and this is, I think it's the medium oval in the stitched frame die. Let's measure that so I can give you the exact amount. Oh, I've got a clingy stamp stuck to my hand. Pretty good testimonial, I guess. This is the 2 3/4 inch stitched frame oval, and I'm going to stamp my birds up in the top corner. Remember, when you're stamping, you just want to tap. You do not want to press down where you see the ink oozing up. That will get all on the outside, and that will cause a mess when you try to stamp. And I'm stamping that off just a little bit so you can just see some of the birds flying. In the middle, I'm going to stamp my Lighthouse, and this one's a little tricky. Be sure you do a little practice. I think I'm wiggling the camera when I'm pressing down. And see, I don't have quite enough ink on there. Although this particular stamp does have areas that are lighter and darker. That's kind of part of the vintage charm of it. So you'll need a large clear block for this one. Give yourself a little extra space. And there's my beautiful Lighthouse. The next thing I need to stamp my sentiment. And I'm using Thanks. Okay, let me show you this. I'm going to pull these off. I should probably clean them first. So let me grab my scrub. Have you tried this yet? It is so wonderful. I love it. I'll usually stamp off just a little bit and then just rub it across there a couple of times, and it is clean. I'll do one more swish, and then to get it off, you want to peel. So you want to get that sticker off before you peel the whole thing off. If you pull the sticker off of the rubber stamp, it's not ever going to go back on the same way. So when you get the cling, which is a good thing, you also get the cling, which can be a little more challenging to get off. So now I have my Thanks sentiment. Tap, check it, and then I'm just going to stamp that in the middle of a small scrap of white because I'm going to be cutting that out with a die cut. I need something on my envelope, so let me do that while I have my ink out. And I'm going to be using the Anchor. See if it'll fit on the same one. The Stampin' Scrub, all you have to do is run it under water and it rinses out. It won't ever come perfectly clean, but it will certainly still give you a beautiful image. And that anchor is going to fit perfectly right there. So let me ink that up and grab my envelope. And I'm just going to put an anchor right there in the corner. No naked envelopes. I just love the way this stamp has varying shades of dark and light, which gives it a little bit of a vintage feel. So we have done our stamping except for in the center. So let me grab my card, and on the inside I'm going to stamp Thanks is the outside, so it's going to say you are my true north on the inside. And there's lots of different choices. Set sail in the direction of your dreams. Let hope be your anchor through the storms of life. And congrats, or you are my true north. Stamp that. There you go. And I think since I'm in here, another little anchor there. That'd be kind of cute. It's a very classy stamp set. You like? Yeah. All right. So this is where we are, and I'm going to get things set up to do my die cutting next. I've got my framelit set up. I have the wheel here, and this is a little bit of scrap of copper, the shiny copper foil. Can you see that? And I have my Lighthouse, and I've attached it with the sticky part of a sticky note. Here's the rest of it so you can kind of see how that works. That will keep it in place while I run it through the Big Shot die cutting machine. And then I have my thanks sentiment here, and that's a pretty close fit. So I want to just put some of the sticky part of a Post-it note to hold the paper, the cardstock paper, to the framelit. So my layers are here. I have my platform, my thin die adapter, and my bottom plate. And all I need to do is add my top plate and run it through the Big Shot. And I love the magic of die cuts, because when you pull them out, you're just amazed at yourself, because they always come out looking so professional. So I've got my Lighthouse, and I've got my steering wheel, and that I'm going to use my piercing tool to poke out all the little pieces, but I won't make you watch that. Okay, now, can you guess what happened? It did not cut because I put the wrong side up. Have you ever done that? Well, I do it too. So this one, I can see the impression, so I'm just gonna lay it back on top and run it back through the Big Shot. And also remember, we have already cut out our oval so that we could go ahead and stamp the birds on. So let me go fix my boo-boo and I'll be right back. Before we go any further, I want to stop and color my Lighthouse. This is what it's going to look like. And I'm going to be using Stampin' Blends, and this is the dark real red. On the blends, you've got two different tips. One is a fine tip. It'd help you if I turned it right side. Fine tip, and then there's a brush. And I like to use the brush. It's just personal preference, but it is a small space, so I want to be kind of careful. I'm going to put a scrap piece of paper underneath it because the blends are alcohol markers and they will go through paper and cardstock sometimes. So I'm just going to color the top part, and you can do this however you want, but I kind of like the look of that stripe, and there's a place right here that divides it. So I'm just gonna quickly color that. I'm just using the one shade, the dark real red. I'm gonna color there, and then I'm gonna color the bottom part of the Lighthouse, and then I'm gonna use some light Crumb Cake to color the sand underneath my Lighthouse. So these are alcohol markers. They just go on so smoothly, and then you get a dark and a light for each color. And the idea is that you blend the dark and the light together to get you some shading. I'm not going to do that on this card because it's such a small space. I'm fine with just the solid. So here's my red. And then I'm going to add a little bit of Crumb Cake. This is the same Stampin' Blends, and I'm going to use the big brush end and color the sand. I'm not going to go all the way to the edge, just kind of color over the little indentation, the little blue lines that are defining the sand. And that's about all I need to do for that. My next step is going to be fixing another boo-boo. Now, this is real life stamping, guys. I do not do it perfectly the first time, but if any of you have noticed, I have not added my baker's twine, and I want to do that before I go any further. So I'm just going to use a little tool here and push kind of pull apart very carefully. This is not a good idea. I should have done this before I put the blue layer down, but I did not, so we're gonna have to fix it. So I'm just gonna kind of push where those dots are, Stampin' Dimensional dots, and pull up that bottom row. And it's not gonna be perfect, but certainly looks like waves now, doesn't it? I think that'll go away. So I have, I think, 20 inches of the Sahara Sand and Navy Baker's Twine. I'm going to tie a knot right there, and I'm gonna wrap it twice. So let's push that underneath where I want it to be. There we go. About an inch from the bottom of that navy part. And I want to leave enough to tie my knot. So I'm going to wrap, I think it's a little too much. There we go. Let's wrap it. So I get 2 layers. And then tie a knot right where I'm going to hang that anchor. So it's got it about where I want it. So I'm going to tie my knot here. And I'm going to do 1 tie, and then I'm going to put my anchor actually right here tied onto that Baker's Twine. And so I have my anchor in copper, which kind of just gives it gotta have a little bit of bling. And I'm going to just pull it through one of those, I don't know what you call it, one of those sections, I guess, and then finish my knot. There's one little trick I'm going to show you after I get this tied on. There we go. And I'm going to have to do one more knot to cinch that on top. There we go. Now what I'd like to also do is trim that off and add, sorry, my scissors have run away. Trim that off, and then I'm going to untwist it just a little bit to give it that frayed rope effect like you're going to get here. So I'm going to untwist that back to the knot by just rolling it backwards, separate those fibers, and then I can trim it however long I think it should be. Probably go to, see how good that's going to look. You can already see that coming through. Maybe 3/4 of an inch. I'll just kind of have to play with it to see what I want to do. But we are getting there. A couple more twists and I think I'll have it. In case you're wondering, I don't know if any of you are observant of the details, but I've filmed this over several different sessions, so my hands and my clothes keep changing. I've had quite a bit of grandchildren opportunities this week that I do not pass up, so I've had to kind of film it in pieces as I have time. So I'm going to trim it about that close, and I like that. It kind of looks a little bit more seaworthy, and I'll do the same thing on the other side. And now I need to do is press these back down. I might want to add another dimensional if I feel like those aren't sticking after I pulled them up. If you don't like the positioning of the wheels, sometimes it won't quite stay where you want, I'm going to add a little glue dot, a little mini glue dot in the center that won't show, and then I can place it exactly where I want it so that it's going to lay a little closer to my twine like I wanted it. See? Just readjust and you're good to go. I did go back and add, I think, 2 more dimensionals where I had to pull those apart because I forgot to put my twine on. All right. Excuse me. We're ready to get our card put together. So here is the oval. And it's going to go right in the middle and just above my Baker's Twine. let me pull it over to the right just a smidge. So it's off center just a little bit because I'm going to have my lighthouse on the left there. So it's fairly centered, but a little farther to the right. For my lighthouse, I want to pop that up with dimensionals. So I put dimensionals on the right side if I'm looking at the back. And I'm going to put those right here. Right close to the edge and hanging off the bottom just a tiny bit. There we go. Next, I want to add a little dot. These are called Happiness Blooms enamel dots. They were carried over from the previous year's catalog. I think they were originally showed up in the Occasions catalog, but I'm going to use that small blue dot just to give it a little something extra at the top, because the spire there is so tiny it's hard to see. So this will make it stand out a little bit. There you go. Plus the gloss on it gives it a little extra. Now the last part to the card front, I have my thanks sentiment, and I'm going to put it with pop dots right here in the middle. Now since I pop dotted my lighthouse, I'm going to need to put an extra dot on top here to get it to be the correct height. Otherwise it's going to slant down. So I'm just going to add, yeah, that's already sticky, so pull that little piece of paper off that protects it. Add another small dimensional, and then I have 2 on one on the other, and if I lay that on top, that should be pretty even. And don't press, you can pull those up and reposition if you need to. All right, my card front is finished. Isn't that pretty? Now on the inside, we had done You Are My True North with the anchor. Another way of doing that, and I kind of like it better since the sentiment works, there is another stamp, and it is a compass, and it's really, here's what it looks like. So I just stamped that in navy on my original card, and then on the inside, I added the blue from the peacock. It's called Noble Peacock Rhinestones, so I added one of those bright, small blue rhinestones in the center. And I think this is my preference, although the anchor looks fine. But I like this compass because it kind of went along with the sentiment. So there's a thanks, You Are My True North. And we've got the envelope. And we are all done. Isn't that pretty? I like that. It's a great masculine card too. And sometimes those are a little harder to find, so it would work well for that. Now, my information, if you needed any products, please like and follow my YouTube channel, and that way you'll get new videos, which I'm working very, very hard to get those out more quickly for you. And then also, if you needed a catalog, this is the new annual catalog, and it actually has that Come Sail Away suite on the front. I can get you one of those if you will send me your email or message me. And here's my information. My blog is www.crafterinspired.com. There you can also sign up for my newsletter, so that will make sure you stay in the loop. You can shop for any products at www.lindafaulkner.stampinup.net. And my email, if you have questions or need a catalog, linda@crafterinspired.com. And please notice I spell my name strangely. There's a L-Y. There are not many of us out there. Also, if you would like measurements, I have all of that information in detail on my blog at www.crafterinspired.com. Thanks so much for joining me, and I will see you soon.